What if your pain isn't telling you what you think it's telling you? What if the signal is accurate, but you've been reading it wrong? See, your nervous system is constantly sending your brain reports, right? Temperature, pressure, position, threat. And most of the reports don't come from the muscle, right? They don't come from the bones. They come from the tissue wrapped around them. They come from the fascia. So, two episodes in, and here's where we're at, right? Episode one, it was about the full body web, one connected suit, right? Episode two was about the collagen rope, elastin spring, and the gel called ground substance, right? Living cells inside it called fibroblasts that listen to your movement and build accordingly. Today, we're going to go into the nervous system because here's what most people don't know. Fascia is not just structural tissue, it's a sensory tissue. It is one of the primary ways your brain knows what's happening in your body. And when fascia gets restricted, when it gets tight, stuck, dehydrated, or scarred, the information it sends to your brain gets corrupted. That corrupted signal is what most people call chronic pain. It's not damage, it's not weakness, it's a signal problem. Your muscles, the things you've been told your whole life are the engine of your body, have far fewer sensory receptors than the tissue wrapped around them. This means fascia isn't a passive wrapper, it's an active sensing system. It is constantly, right now, while you sit there, feeding information to your brain. Pressure, tension, stretch, compression, position in space. Every second, every movement, every time you hold still, your brain's picture of your body, what it thinks your body is doing, where it is, whether it's safe, is built primarily from fascia input, right? Not the muscular input. That changes everything about how you think about training, about the pain, about recovery. So inside your fascia, there are three types of sensory receptors doing most of the work. First, these detect mechanical force, pressure, stretch, vibration. When you press into a tight spot in your shoulder and it hurts, that's mechanoreceptors firing. When you stretch and feel the pull, that's mechanoreceptors. They're the tissue's way of saying something is happening here, pay attention. Second, these tell your brain where your body is in space, not in abstract, but literally. Where is your arm right now? Is your spine straight? Is your weight balanced? You know where your hand is right now without looking at it, right? That's proprioception. And most of the receptors responsible for that sense live in your fascia, not in your muscles, but your fascia. Third, nociceptors, right? These are pain reporters. When tissue is under threat, too much compression, too much stretch, too much heat, too much chemical irritation, right? Nociceptors fire. They then signal the brain, danger, something needs to change. And the fascia has more of all three than almost any other tissue in your body. So here's where it gets critical, right? Under normal conditions, these sensors are incredibly precise. They give your brain accurate real-time information about what's happening in the body. But when the fascia is restricted, when it's tight, dehydrated, compressed by chronic posture, the sensors don't work the same. Mechanoreceptors that were designed to respond to a specific threshold of pressure start firing at much lower thresholds. Things that shouldn't hurt start hurting, gentle pressure, normal movement, sitting in a chair. Proprioceptors that were giving your brain accurate position data start sending fuzzy signals, right? Your brain loses precision about where your body is in space. And when the brain doesn't know exactly where a body part is, it does something very human, right? It braces, it tightens around this uncertainty, right? It sends a muscular guarding signal to that area, which compresses the fascia further, right? Which sends even more distorted signals back to the brain, which tightens even more. That's the pain cycle most people are living inside right now. It's not damage, it's feedback loop. Distorted input, protective output, more distortion, more protection. Around and around. And treating only the pain, the output, without addressing the signal, the input, is why most chronic pain never resolves. So let me give you one practical example of what this means, right? When fascia around your hips is restricted, the proprioceptors inside it stop giving your brain precise information about hip position. Your brain responds by recruiting your lower back muscles to stabilize what the hip should be controlling. Your lower back is now doing two jobs. Now it gets overworked, overloaded, right? It starts sending nociceptor signals. Now you have lower back pain, right? It's going off. Now you go to the trainer, you strengthen your lower back, and it helps briefly. Then it comes back because the hip fascia is still restricted. The proprioceptor signal is still imprecise, right? The brain is still recruiting the wrong muscles for the wrong job. You were treating the output, the input, the fascial restriction, the corrupted signal was never addressed. So let's go one more layer, right? And this one goes deeper than movement. Your nervous system has a state, right? It's not signals, it's a state. It's safe, mobilized, shut down. You know this from lived experience, right? When you're calm, rest and digest, your body is open, soft, breathing is easy, tissue is pliable. When you're stressed, fight or flight, your body contracts, shoulder rises, jaw tightens, right? Breath shortens, everything starts pulling inward. When you're in chronic stress or unresolved trauma, that contraction doesn't release. The body stays guarded. And that guarding, that held contraction, lives in the fascia, not just in the muscle. The fascia is where the nervous system state is stored in the tissue, which means the tension you carry in your neck and shoulders every day is not structural problem. It is your nervous system state made physical, right? It is your stress, your threat response expressed in connective tissue. And stretching it once or twice a week won't resolve it because the signal driving the tension is still running. We'll go deep on this in the emotional body episode, but I needed to plant it here because you cannot separate the nervous system from fascial system, right? They are the same conversation. So here's what I want you to take out of this episode, right? Pain is a signal, not always the accurate one. When fascia is restricted, the sensors inside it become hypersensitive. They fire at lower thresholds. They send your brain distorted information, and your brain, trying to protect you, responds with more tension, more guarding, more pain, right? More fight or flight. The cycle runs itself. But here's the other side, right? If restricted fascia can corrupt the signal, then releasing the restriction can restore and heal. Accurate input, appropriate output. The pain doesn't just reduce, the brain gets a better picture of the body. Movement improves, coordination improves. The guarding starts to dissolve, not because you got stronger, but because the signal got cleaner. So in episode 4, we get into the biomechanics, right? How fascia controls your movement in ways that have nothing to do with the muscle strength. Why training muscles in isolation is only half the picture, and what it looks like to train the whole system. The way you've been training might be leaving most of your body untouched. So I'll see you there.